Welcome to Broken City Podcast number 8.
What is up?
Yo! Today we decided that it might be cool to talk about one of our favorite bands, and I know Mike is not here today, but I know also one of his favorite bands, Rush. We thought it'd be cool to talk about how Rush has been super influential on us as musicians.
And Rush, man, it's an interesting one. It's like, there was definitely a point where, like, I started loving Rush. I must have been 8 or 9 years old when I first heard Rush through my brother Ryan. And he played guitar, and he had bands, and bands would set up in our house. And this was like before I actually played drums, but I was just like, drums.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd hear Moving Pictures was what I heard the most. I think Moving Pictures and maybe songs like La Via Strangiato and The Trees and that kind of era of Rush, the late 70s, early 80s stuff.
Right.
And just being like, I just remember listening to the sound of the drums and just being obviously blown away like every other kid at that time. There's so many drums and he's hitting so many, and they're so fast, and it's just so like visceral and incredible. Yeah. It's like he was a drum superhero.
Yeah, he was.
It was like, some people love Batman, some people love Neil Peart or Peart, whoever it is.
The Canadians say Peart.
But, you know, like, for those of you who don't know, you know, Neil Peart retired.
Yeah, just recently.
Just in the past couple months, and so we're assuming that means the end of Rush. I mean, I haven't read...
Unless somebody fills in his spot. Maybe John Rutsey will come back.
Yeah, or Charlie Watts.
There you go. That'd be pretty interesting, actually. My experience with Rush is like, kind of like yours, in the sense that there was a kid that lived across the street from me who was in all these cool bands, like Elvis Costello and... I don't know what else, but things like that. And he also had Moving Pictures. That was the first album I heard.
Yep.
So I go over to his house, and he go, you got to check this band out. And I listened, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. It was around the same time that I heard Led Zeppelin, and I had these silver dollars that my grandma gave me, and there's this guy up the street, and I bought all these Led Zeppelin records for like $1. On my silver dollars, you know. You spent all my silver dollars on Led Zeppelin records. So
isn't that just one silver dollar?
Well, I had several. I had 5 silver dollars, so I was able to buy 5 records.
Okay.
But anyways... It was around that cool time, though, where I was, like, getting into, like, Led Zeppelin, and then there was Rush, and Rush was way more, you know, obviously more progressive, so it was like an extension of that for me, you know?
That's interesting, man, because you loved both, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the time?
Yeah.
There's this, like, certain stigma around Rush as compared to almost everything else, but Rush and Yes and certain prog rock bands.
But even those bands are not into... Rush, you know, in a way. Like, they're kind of frowned upon.
That's true.
Yeah. Rush is kind of its
I think
own
there's
thing.
A lot of reasons why. I mean, we can guess, but I'll give you my opinion of why. But, like, obviously Led Zeppelin, I think, stands on some sort of higher tier of I guess, just overall respect level in the history of music.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, honestly, and I love Led Zeppelin, I would say that I'm kind of in that category. Like, I kind of have, like, an overall feeling of, like, there's something about Led Zeppelin's music that is more rooted, I think, maybe in classic songwriting. What they did
more earthy.
Is their sound was rooted in tradition.
Sure.
And then they took it to another place. Like, they took blues to another place, made it heavier. They took the singer-songwriter stuff and folk, and then added that, put another layer on it, another layer of both mysticism, intensity, you know, the whole just rock and roll aesthetic, you know, of what Jimmy Page, you just watch the guy play. Yeah. Guitar God thing, and then Bonham. Nobody had ever really played drums with that type of feel and that sort
sound.
Of heavy-handed sound, and then it was recorded in a way that really brought out those qualities. When you look at Bonham play, it's not like he's hitting crazy hard,
right?
But he's hitting crazy good.
Yeah, it just
and
sounds thunderous.
His feel was right, and his drums were tuned a certain way, and it was more broad appeal, I guess. And then Rush, you know, honestly, like, it was sort of more for the nerds. They call it
the Dungeons and Dragon lyrics.
Yeah, it's like wizard rock and like more math. It's busier, which kind of like, if you're a highbrow musician, that equals like a lack of taste.
Right.
And then obviously the lyrics are very heady, but then they're sung by a very like
witchy
what
woman.
were you playing earlier?
I was playing Fly By Night.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there was almost like a humor, like there.
Yeah, his voice is incredibly high.
What I found interesting is in the recent that awesome long documentary they released a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Neil Peart was talking about pretension, and I think prog rock and specifically Rush would get bashed for being pretentious.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's not pretentious. The word pretentious means you're pretending something.
Right.
We weren't pretending anything. We loved what we did and we meant it.
Yeah, that's why everybody who likes them feels it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's real to them, and therefore it's real to somebody who's into it.
Yeah, that's the heart of what music is. It's like...
They're real to themselves.
Yeah, if you're true to what you dig, that'll polarize your audience most often.
Right.
If you get a lukewarm response from everybody, it's highly doubtful that what you're doing as an artist is
really reaching.
Is really true,
yeah.
And you're reaching deep into yourself.
And I think the cool thing too that they had going for them was melody too. Like later on, especially,
yeah.
But they were good melody writers, so they always had songs that you could remember for the most part. I mean, there's obviously even their epic songs are like things. There was pieces you could remember, like the riffs and They just had a knack for melodic writing, which a lot of bands don't have. A lot of prog bands are void of that. So like King Crimson, later on were melodic, but early on it was like, I'm not saying they didn't have melody, but it was definitely a harder music to grasp. Mm-hmm. You had to definitely be into that kind of darker, diminished sounding music.
Yeah, harmonically they were like in a more dense place.
Where Rush was definitely more like a good cross-pollination between like a band like King Crimson and Yes, where they had sunny music, but they also had a lot of improv.
It was the kind of virtuosity that even a young person could understand.
Right.
I think it was this sort of like virtuosity on a 4-piece drum set. It maybe takes more understanding than virtuosity, where you're going like from this tone all the way across to that tone. It just looks like a
right. Yeah, I was talking to Taylor Hawkins about that, how he was talking about the around the world thing he does, and we were talking about why it's so appealing, and he's like, I think it's about the velocity and the way he did it. Like nobody had really done it like that before.
Yeah.
And it was simple, but nobody had really attacked the drums in that kind of way.
It's like when you hear a pianist go Liberace.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, he went from low to high. He used the whole instrument. He really did take it to that sort of like epic place of flashiness where it made you an easy target. He was an easy target.
Right.
It didn't help that they were wearing like wizard outfits in certain areas either. That makes you an easy target. But that was sort of in style, I guess.
But did you think it was cool the way he had orchestrated drum parts too? Like me not even being a drummer could remember all his drum parts. Yeah. I think that's interesting. I mean, I can't remember every Rush drum fill. I mean, a Yes drum fill, or every Led Zeppelin drum fill. Yeah. But if I'm listening to a Rush song, I can remember those fills. Like that's special. I don't know a lot of people that can do that.
Yeah, he was a rhythmic composer, and I think that was rooted in his writing capability. Like the fact that he wrote lyrics, the fact that he was very well read. Mm-hmm. He was really into writing, and I think writing is about structure and telling a story. And I think he kind of wanted to bring that aesthetic, I think, to the drums, like storytelling, and like here's the story, I'm telling it. Mm-hmm. This is the story that goes with the song, and don't change it because that's that's the story. He was making like literature for drums, I think, in a way. It's really interesting. It's
a good lesson in bands too, because I know one thing that makes them unique. Well, there's a lot of things that make them unique, but one thing is that they all individually had a sound. Like Alex Lifeson played a certain way that's definitely his. Mm-hmm. Like you can tell it's him. Geddy Lee obviously with his bass, which was an extension of Chris Squire, but it's still like. When you hear him, it's him. Yeah. And then Neil Peart obviously had a very individualistic style. But, I just find them really fascinating. Why do they speak to me in such a way? Like, when I hear their music, I get this nostalgic feeling like it's so rooted in the core of my musicianship. And I've listened to some hardcore, stuff that's way more advanced. Mm-hmm. But I always find myself going back to that and feeling the same feeling as I did when I was a kid.
It's a good question of is it because it defined a certain period of your life, and no matter what music it was, it would still be nostalgic. Sure. Or, I think there's something special about Rush, as they appeal to certain people, because if that wasn't true, they wouldn't have existed from how many years is that? 40 years?
Yeah, it's a long time, since the early 70s, 73.
Yeah, so we're talking over 40 years of, a band that continually would sell. I think they were consistent at selling about 1 million records a year.
That's incredible.
Obviously in their heyday more, but their fans were rabid because there was something in their music that felt a certain way.
Yeah. And MSG.
If you didn't like what that feeling was, then you hated them, and if you liked it, you were like, it was either a guilty pleasure or you unabashedly loved it. Like when I was a kid, I loved it from the time like I was 8 or 9 years old. It inspired me to want to drum.
Oh yeah.
And then I fell in love with it, learned all the Rush parts, would play along to it. And then the Police also. So like I was really into the Police.
It's
really
interesting that those two bands there's a correlation between those two bands sometimes.
Strange, yeah.
Because of the drumming aspect of it, like Stuart Copeland and then Neil.
It's weird to find out recently that Neil was actually influenced by Stuart Copeland in the early 80s.
Yeah, it's the Signals record, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like he started to hear that a cranked up snare drum and the use of splash cymbals and little timbali things. There were little nuances that you wouldn't imagine those two people would like, or that Neil would grab from.
Yeah, the reggae thing.
Yeah, like one of his contemporaries, but you hear it.
That's some of his best drumming, I think, is Signals. What do you
agree.
think? You like that one?
Like that era of his drumming, I think he was.
It was amazing.
There was a quality to his touch that like there was so much intensity in the way he like he hit the drum with a certain kind of power, and every hit meant something. And it wasn't quite there earlier, but that period of like I would probably say late 70s up to the middle 80s, or even further on, that remained. But I think the recording quality
wasn't the same.
They fell into the overly digital,
right,
and thinner sounding recordings of the 80s, so it didn't translate as much as it does when you listen to like Signals, Moving Pictures, Permanent Waves.
Yeah, those albums sound great.
You still pull them up today. I mean, if you crank that up, it's got a punchy. You can really feel
the drums.
Yeah, it's part of the sonic, stuff that was going on there with the tape and stuff. But you could also just feel that he was hitting the drums, and I love that. And that's how Stuart Copeland played. But I think what I was getting at is just that like when I was 15, 16 years old, I still loved Rush, and then I discovered Vinnie Colaiuta and Dave Weckl, and my eyes were opened, and then I started to see like what you could say was like missing from Rush, or like, and then I got really into Sting, and sort of like, it's funny because I still like
kind of grew up a little bit.
It grew up a little bit, but it also like those were natural progressions. Sure. It is still emotional music that's about great playing, but that it has a real heavy intellectual component. Like I always loved music that made me feel, but always gave me something to think about.
Right, yeah. The philosophical end of it, yeah.
Yeah, and Sting was kind of a natural jumping off point because he was a great lyricist. But he was making more what you might say timeless, mature music, and a little less progressive and playfully, I don't know, circus-like or something. Yeah. But it's funny because I think one of the I wanted to say this earlier, but one of the things about the melodic thing with Rush, and then also the way the lyrics play against the melodies, I think you get a weird result when lyrics are written kind of, and then melodies are written from the lyrics.
Yes.
It's very difficult. You hear this in James Taylor sometimes, you hear it in Joni Mitchell sometimes. You definitely heard it in like the second Alanis Morissette record. There's certain artists you hear where you're like, there's something about it, you just go, they wrote the lyrics first.
Right.
It's almost like they're like, the lyrics are steering the melodies, and words tend to land in clunky places, and you can sort of, and I think some of that would happen with Rush, where you hear like a strange phrase or a word that didn't necessarily sing well, but they just did it anyway. Yeah. And you'd be like, that tasted a little funny.
Yeah. Well, it's like funny because Elton John did that too. Like he would take the lyrics and write a song around it. His stuff felt less like that. And then, I mean, there's like a lineage of people that do that, like the songwriter with the lyricist and the melody guy. It's an interesting way of writing, and it definitely has a different feel to it.
You can totally make it work, and it can be invisible, I think. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule by any means.
But with them, I know what you mean. There's like a way, they had to figure out how to make this philosophical word stuff happen.
Yeah.
to music. Like, how are we going to make this work, you know? And obviously Geddy was feeling it because he's the guy selling it.
Yeah.
He's the guy singing it and feeling it. So obviously he felt it.
I'd be very curious to see how certain songs are written compared to others. Like, because there are certain songs that really feel inevitable and like the words roll off the tongue, and there's a I guess a consistency or a real sort of alignment.
Was that later in their career though? Because they might have got better.
I think so. I think, well, Losing It is an example.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
You were? Yeah.
It's like very emotional sounding.
And dude, the song that Geddy Lee wrote by himself.
Which one's that?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna find it.
You know you wrote a song by himself.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I could say also, while you're looking that up, the first song I learned on guitar when I was 12 years old was Xanadu. Can you believe that?
Dude.
The first lick I learned.
Can you play it?
I learned that lick first on guitar, and then I learned the chords. I don't remember the chords, actually, but they were all those open Alex Lyson voicings, you know. And that was the cool thing about him as a guitar player, too, is he had that open voicing thing. Like this chord especially. It's so Rush. It's the first song of Hemispheres. I mean, it's the first chord of Hemispheres.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I like about them. It's like they all have such identifiable things about them.
Yeah.
And Alex Lyson's lead guitar playing kind of evolved from being sort of Jimmy Page-ish to like more legato and even kind of new wavy with his sound. Had a lot of chorus and a lot of tremolo bar, whammy bar stuff. But I don't know, man. There's just something about that band that like it was very highly influential for me as a musician, and it was a great launching pad. It like got me interested in other things that I would have probably not been into because of their progressive music, you know.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Beck, Wired, and records like that, and then Alan Holdsworth, and I think it was a great for both of us. I think it was a great launching pad as a just in terms of art.
I agree, and then it like. I think what was weird about it is that you kind of feel like you mature past Rush, and then you come back to it with a new appreciation for what it is. Like, I think I matured past it because I think, you know, my peer group or whatever, when I started getting into like songwriting and also like drummers like Vinnie Colaiuta and Jeff Porcaro, where like the subtlety was in the feel, or there was a different layer of really improvisation, because I think that was what was really missing in Neil Peart's playing is improvisation,
very composed, and
then also a sense of groove that wasn't as like. I realized later that Neil Peart's drumming actually moved a lot in a very organic way, but the feeling that he gave was of authority. Right. So like I can recall a moment when, you know, I went through a period of like 4 or 5 years where I just went nuts practicing to a click track. So I was like, I got to get my time together, and I just drove myself nuts. And then I went back and I realized that, you know, a lot of those Rush recordings weren't recorded to a click. And when I'd play to them, I'd find myself going like, oh my gosh, did I just rush or drag? But it was Neil's time kind of floating and stuff, and I didn't realize that was happening until later, and I'd be like, oh, I always felt like that part was weird, but I always blame myself.
Must be me.
Because my time wasn't great, you know? His time was definitely better than mine, but it was a strange...
Yeah, I wonder when he started playing the click tracks. I wonder what album. It's funny, this is like such a nerdy podcast, but I'm really enjoying it.
Who cares? We both have glasses on.
I wore these just for this Rush podcast.
Right.
So I want to get Professor on you people.
I think it was Different Strings.
Oh, I love that song.
I think Geddy.
And I love his drumming on that song too. He's got such subtle. This is so nerdy. I love it. He's got such subtle drumming.
So subtle.
Like the way he goes, that kind of stuff is so like awesome when he puts it in there. Yeah. And Alex Lyson guitar solo is really good in that. I just love the vibe of that song. You know?
Yeah, they have some like song moments throughout their career, you know.
But it's, you know, one thing that's kind of lacking in today's music, not to sound old, but, you know, because I do listen to a lot of modern music and I do enjoy it, but...
Gramps, come on, Come
on, Gramps! But the thing I do miss is, like, the idea of 3 people getting together in a garage and forging a sound and then making history. You know what I'm saying? That sounds really overstating something, but it's true, though. I mean, those 3 guys got together, played in garages, you know, and ended up making a sound that ended up selling millions of records and changing a lot of people's lives, including ours, you know. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be playing the way we play, you know. And, like, what's happening nowadays is I don't see probably the issue with that is that kids probably don't see, maybe in the hardcore scene, like those what do you call that, the Warped Tour scene, you still have those kind of bands. Mm-hmm. And music's evolved, obviously. We're not playing the same old kind of rock music, so it's like I said, it's old man talk, because
it's not, I mean, it's
but I
just,
do miss that, the individuality.
Historic context, because like a lot of the scene stuff, it does have that mentality, but when they go to record,
it all sounds the same.
Clearly the drums are quantized and the snares are replaced, and
there's no human, there's no individuality in sound.
It's at least my, I'm not in that world, so I don't want to overgeneralize, but I know the stuff that I've heard.
Yeah.
It probably has a more core thing like you're talking about, like a rawness.
Right.
If it would be captured that way, like if Rick Rubin went in and captured those bands, but I think they end up going in and just quantizing all the double bass and
which
using
is today,
the best slate snare drum.
I mean, that's okay, because that's how things evolve. I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, the 80s were like that too, where everything was quantized, everything was synth, and that's the way. It's
okay, but it's sort of.
I miss it. I mean, I guess that's the thing. You just miss what you don't have anymore.
Yeah, and you gotta this is opinion alert, but if you can, in a day and age when you can fix everything. Do you though?
Yeah.
Fix some stuff, but you can actually wring the humanity out of everything if you so desire. But it takes some self-control and some artistic intent to go, here's what I'm fixing, here's what I'm quantizing, here's what I'm tuning, here's what I'm not, and be specific with your intent, as opposed to just automatically out of insecurity quantize everything, tune everything, just so you know. Scared. Yeah, you're scared to be judged for something.
Yeah.
Which is why, obviously, the top of the heap of, pop artists that have an element of
rawness.
You can tell that throughout Adele's records that, her big song, the kick drum.
There's a fire. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, there's...
What's that called again?
It doesn't matter.
It's just an Adele song. They're all the same.
Yeah, they're not.
But they just have a girl singer on it.
Yeah, some random girl. But the point is that not all those notes are perfectly in tune, or you can hear that she starts and then pulls up to the pitch.
Yeah, there's a style thing.
There's a thing. They're using pitch as a emotional element in the music.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that kind of weird that pitch becomes now a thing? We're not going to auto-tune because that's will be different. It's so weird how it goes around and this. Yeah. It's at first it's all about robot vocals, and it's to be different, we're going to not tune this, and that's going to be cool.
T-Pain.
Yeah. I guess that's how things evolve. They have to get they have to reach that wall where it's it's been too much, and then they have to kind of, what do they do next? Don't tune the vocals. How's that sound? Oh, well, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's novel.
It's a new concept. Here's something that's going to be a bummer for people, but I don't really think. I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Bring it, Grandpa!
I don't really think Adele is that amazing.
Oh, talk to me.
In the world of, Aretha Franklin, and the world of, Joni Mitchell, and I think, of course, in today's age, we're stoked to have her. Because in today's age, there's not a lot of people like her, so in that regard, I give her all the respect in the world. And
so are you taking something...
She's definitely talented.
Away from Adele, or are you just kind of saying that, I
think we overemphasize her value in some ways, because we're just all starving for something that's a little bit more real. And it's not to take anything away from her, because she is a talented person.
So you're saying you're in the desert and you get a Sizzler steak.
Yeah.
And you haven't had one in 10 years as you've been traveling through the desert, and you're this is the best steak I've ever had.
Yeah. I've been having roaches.
I don't think you're calling Adele Sizzler.
No, not at all. I think she's talented. I think
you're kind of saying if she was around during Aretha's age, would she be...
Yeah, would she still be considered what she is right now? I don't think she would, and I think she would be... People would think she's awesome. I don't think anybody would say she sucks, because she certainly doesn't suck, and she's talented, and she writes great songs. None of that... It has something to do with actually her as an artist, because I think her as an artist is great. I think it's more to do with people I look on Facebook, people geeking out, it's so great to have Adele, she's amazing, and I'm thinking, yeah, but... Is it really that amazing?
It's really not her fault or her...
It has nothing to do with her, actually, funnily enough.
It's more not what society. She lacks or even what she excels at. I think her on her own, this is my opinion now, I'm not trying to change hers, but...
No, I felt bad for saying it.
No, it's
like because I like her.
It's good to just kind of think it through, because I think mainly it's just that, like, she now represents something.
Sure.
It's like there's only room for one of those.
Yeah, she's a
so
movement.
like everybody who comes up who's a great singer writing organically honest songs is like the next Adele. You
Right.
can't just be like other artist who sings
Right.
great, who writes solid, timeless songs.
Sure. You're now in that camp of Adele.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like we got one of those, cool, we're done. Everybody else is a second best.
Yeah.
Like a way, like...
If you're not Adele, you're not even worth bothering with that style.
Yeah, there is one.
We already have
Thanks. Which...
Because it was really Duffy and Adele. Like that, for a while, that was like the two sort of like singers that did that. You know, there was
Right,
obviously
Amy
more.
Winehouse,
Amy
too.
Winehouse, she was awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of find Amy, funnily enough, I find her way more unique than Adele. And I don't mean that because she stylistically did rip some things off, but I found her perspective lyrically really unique.
Yeah, she's definitely more quirky.
Yeah, quirky.
But she also had, I think, fewer songs that
Sure, yeah. That's true.
stood the test of time, because she had a more jazz
It wasn't-
aesthetic.
Yeah.
You know, I watched that documentary, and it was interesting to me that she was like the level of fame and notoriety, but also just kind of like respect that she got relative to how many songs she has that are sort of public knowledge is really interesting. Like you got like Rehab, Valerie.
That's the only one they know.
Right. Yeah, I know there's another one that I'm having trouble thinking of, but
Right.
that's the point, is like, what other artist has her stature? And I know she died, so it
She has
elevated
an
the
element
mystique.
of legend. Yeah.
But 2 or 3 songs and that stature had a lot to do with her voice,
Yeah, and her
energy, her
she was
whole
weird.
yeah, her whole.
But
thing.
she was really drugged out. That was like watching that documentary. It was kind of sad. It was like
Very
you're
sad.
you're like watching a car crash, because here's this girl that wanted to be a success, became a success, and then was disappointed by success, and therefore became an alcoholic, a drug user.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of a sad tale, and it happens to a lot of people that are trying to fill that hole of whatever it is they're looking for. You know, obviously she's looking for love and acceptance from her dad and
Right.
her mom. I don't know about her mom so much, definitely the dad.
Yeah, it sounded like her mom was a little bit more passive and didn't really know what to do with this.
And the
ball
dad
of
was
energy.
doing creepy things like promoting her career and like.
Later on,
Yeah.
right? I don't really know.
And he was out of the picture early on. That's what I saw in the movie. He was out of the picture, and then he came back in. It's just, you know, it's sad to see. You realize we're parents, so you realize how important it is to be there for your kid. You know, it's like because they can end up going bonkers.
Yeah.
Let's do a podcast on
a
raising
fine line.
children.
Wouldn't that be great? Y'all have kids, right?
But you know, like to put a cap on the Adele thing, I like Adele. I like her records. I like her songs and everything. I just don't put the same importance on her as some people probably do. But that's
In a way, what's behind the concept of what Adele represents is that we're like, and I've heard this talked about before, but it's almost like the middle class of artists is disappearing.
Sure.
And now all you have is like, not all you have, but there's a real trend towards like a ton of like semi-unknown or thriving indie artists that have small fan bases kind of all over the internet. Then you have these few stars, most of which started their journey before the internet really took over. You know, because I think...
Yeah, Adele was before that.
Yeah, it was like you have Timberlake, Bieber, Adele, these handful of like...
Even Bruno Mars was before the whole...
Rihanna, Bruno Mars was right at the tail end of when... I think those days of taking an artist with a lot of talent and launching them from nothing to like that type of status...
It's hard.
It doesn't seem to be happening as much.
I think
or not in the same way. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like I think they're all trying to figure out. We've worked with a lot of them, you know. Like we've done a couple. We had some recordings last year with new artists, you know, like Hudson Thames is one, and then who else?
Yeah, Irusi and Hey Violet.
Obviously, the people that we work with, Irusi and Sonny, and then Hey Violet, and
Colton Dixon, who launched.
Dixon. He had the American Idol machine, which really I think was a benefit to him.
Yeah,
but he's also a true artist in the sense that he knows exactly who he is. He never. You know, he's an interesting one because when we first met him, he definitely knew he had an identity. And I think that's really important for young artists. It's like he knew who he was, the people were coming up to him right when he got kicked off or when he didn't make it, and people are offering him all kinds of deals, stuff, pop deals and Christian deals, and he took the Christian deal because he's like, that's who I am. And I'm sure the other ones are more lucrative.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully he had that American Idol fan base, and
it really helped because the first record sold much better because of it, I think.
Yeah, and he really, I mean, there was nothing really out that was selling that much that had that rock aesthetic.
Yeah.
We were able to make music with him.
I know.
That we could not have made in any other context.
It's true.
Yeah.
It was fun. That was a really fun record to make because, like you said, there was a couple records that were like that. The first Cherry Bomb record that we worked on.
Yeah, totally.
Was like us getting to be artists with the band, which, I know out there in the world everybody thinks that, Cherry Bomb wrote their own songs or Justin Bieber wrote their own songs, but, it's not true. I mean, the artists have a perspective, but the producers are kind of a part of the band.
Yeah, and it's not hidden. I mean, it's
people know.
They go on co-writes and we get together and help. That's what producers do. And
yeah. But those two records were fun because, especially Cherry Bomb, we got to live out our sort of like rock and roll fantasy.
It was fun to sort of help be one of many mentors in that whole, those girls had a great, and still do have a great team of people around them that have helped them grow because they're truly talented.
Yeah, now they're Hey Violet and they're amazing. They're great performers live and they've grown a lot.
Yep. So, wow, we went from
Rush to Hey Violet.
Everything from Rush to Hey Violet. To Adele to the disappearing middle class.
Well, you can't talk about Rush for a whole podcast. That would just be too geeky.
Heck yes, you can.
Do we have any questions today, or are we just kind of...
Let's see, I only put out the...
floating in the ether.
The Hey asked some questions like literally minutes before we went on, so let me check. So what's your favorite... What's your favorite Rush album?
That's a good question. I love that question.
I
have one of my favorite Rush albums. I have two. One is Hemispheres, because that album has a special place in my teenage heart.
Yeah.
I just love that record. I thought that was everything about it was pretty cool. And then the second record I really like.
Wait, say that again. Which record?
Hemispheres.
Okay.
And then the second one was Signals. I think Signals is really a great record. Even more so than Moving Pictures, because I like Moving Pictures, but I really love Signals. And it's funny. What was that one record I used to, with my friend Evan Stone, we would listen to this one. It was it's the red cover.
Dude, that's one of my favorites. Hold Your Fire.
Hold Your Fire. That was a good one. I listened to that one a lot in high school.
That to me was like the pinnacle of their songwriting, arrangement skills, them being kind of aware of maybe what they were doing that was a little bit more just for their own benefit. Right. A little more self-serving playing. Mm-hmm. Yet still not losing their identity with their sort of virtuosic, arrangements and stuff.
But it was definitely more of a pop record for them. They were embracing that side of their writing. But for them, that was probably new.
Yeah.
It's now we're writing songs. That's cool.
Right.
Let's go that direction, which is a natural progression for a band that took the other thing to the extreme.
So your favorite record?
Essentia, for the parched human being in all of us.
That's what the
cleanest water in the planet.
I got one too.
Straight from the rivers of Peru. Very tasty. Yeah, Signals and Hemispheres, and I also like the one you just said, Hold Your Fire. So what about you?
I would say...
Isn't that delicious Peruvian wine?
I would say not Roll the Bones.
Yeah. So you're going to pick one that you don't like first. Yeah, I don't think anybody's favorite was Roll the Bones.
I was still around, though.
Was there a rap in that song?
I was trying to like it. Yeah, there was.
That's the bad stuff.
I would say my favorite Rush record is... I would say it is Hold Your Fire.
I like that one. It has Time Stand Still on it, right?
Yep.
Time Stand Still. Amy Mann's on that track?
Yeah. Amy Dude. I would say that, Moving Pictures has a special place in my heart because that record was
the first one.
My little buddy that was by my side as I was learning to be a drummer.
Sure, yeah.
And
Oh, wow, you gotta do that one.
I'd probably say Moving Pictures and Signals and then Hold Your Fire.
Yeah, that's
pretty close to yours. And then Permanent Waves. Wait, not Permanent Waves.
I love Permanent Waves, though, too.
There's great stuff on that. But I was thinking of the record right before Hold Your Fire.
Power Windows?
Power Windows.
Yeah.
There's a song on there called Middletown Dreams
Mm-hmm.
that I think is one of their best songs.
I have to hear that one. I don't know that. That's like kind of when I sort of checked out a little bit from Rush.
Well,
like,
I think
right after
that
Grace
was
Under
like when they
Pressure.
you started to feel like they were like betraying you a little bit.
I'll never forget when I bought Grace Under Pressure, and I was like,
All their hair was
I was
cut.
way into Rush, and I was into Van Halen and Rush and all these really rock and roll bands, you know. And so then I I go to the record store, and the Rush album came out, and I'm like, I can't wait to get this. I get it, and they look like freaking new wave dorks. I'm like, what the hell is happening to my band? And so then I go, this has got to be
breaking against your head.
I'm like, so I was upset and jarred by the album cover by itself, and so I take it home and I put it on the turntable, and I'm like, oh my gosh, synthesizers everywhere. Like, I was used to synths, but they had taken this to a whole new level.
Yeah.
I just remember being devastated by that record. Like, and all my friends are like, a lot of my friends, some of my friends are older, so they're like, I told you Rush is lame, dude. and I'm playing the new Rush album.
They use it against you.
And they're like, now my friends think I'm a dork because I like this band. It's like I had everything against me at that moment.
Wow.
But I've grown to like that album, actually. I think it's pretty cool. But when I first got it, it was definitely I'm sure a lot of guys that were into Rush had that same experience. Like, what just happened?
Yeah, so that had Distant Early Warning, After Image, Red Sector A, The Enemy Within, The Body Electric, Kid Gloves, Red Lenses, Between the Wheels. It is interesting to look, though, that
all about nuclear war.
Most of those songs, did that come out during the Cold War? 84?
Yeah, that's like during the Reagan era.
None of those songs really like are considered amongst the Rush.
The only one is Red Sector A. That's a great. Play just the intro of that. It probably won't play the intro because it'll probably play some random.
Oh yeah.
Let's see what iTunes gives us. Hopefully
they
give us the. You need to get power. I don't think we guitar. That's the best part of the song.
Yeah. Rush is still in there. I just think
they changed their
during
style,
that
which
period.
is totally cool, but
I guess they were on that slow progression towards because what was the album before that? Signals?
Yeah. Oh, we got alarm, but I'm going to turn it off for you fine folks out there.
Yeah, Signals was I think before that.
Yeah. See, going from Signals to that album, I mean, it's a natural progression, but it was definitely a bummer.
Yeah.
Because Signals is way more rock than that record, and just cooler.
And part of it too, I heard this is like definitely a rumor that I don't know if it's totally true, but that something happened with the tapes for Signals.
I don't know exactly what happened, but something bad happened.
I remember something, then I was trying to think about what it could have been, and I think it was that they, I think maybe they lost the multi-tracks, and all they had were rough mixes on half-inch or something.
Whoa, is that true?
I think it might have been something like that, where they had to just go, well,
this is what we got.
I guess those are the mixes.
That's hardcore. I didn't know that.
That's guessing, though. I just remember hearing that there was something about it where they had to sort of like, oops.
Those are good rough mixes, then.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about Signals is there was a rawness to it that made Grace Under Pressure feel more slick.
It was very slick.
Yeah.
Too synth-oriented for my taste.
Yeah, it felt so
and I like
light.
synths. I love synth music, but for some reason, that band with synths bummed me out.
Yeah, and Signals.
And obviously, Subdivisions is very synth heavy. It's just the way that they use synth in the next record.
Signals had Subdivisions, and then it also had.
That's a great song.
The Weapon, Digital Man, Chemistry, and it had Losing It, and Countdown.
All great songs. It's a winning album. Winning. Do we have questions?
Let's see.
If not, I can make up my own questions.
That's true. We can question each other.
This was a fun podcast. I like talking about Rush.
Yeah, man.
I think Rush is great. And we have to leave room for Mike to interject his Rushisms.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no questions yet. We can give people enough time.
That's fine. We'll enjoy the questions when we get them.
Yeah.
And, this has been a fun experience. I love doing these podcasts because it's cool because you delve into things that you normally maybe not even think about, and you go off into different, especially educational stuff, like some stuff we were talking about a couple podcasts ago about, I don't know, scales and whatever the hell we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting
midget
about
mud wrestling?
Yeah, that's my number one hobby.
What was my joke earlier today?
Oh, man. There were so many that that I would have to edit for the podcast.
We'll just edit the midget mud wrestling right now.
I think that one of the
This
things
will be
about-
my legacy, our legacy, Adam. Our kids are going to watch these one day. And they're going to say, those guys were a bunch of dipsticks.
Yeah, they won't have time. They'll be too busy on doing something else.
They'll be playing the internet. Playing the internet.
Playing the internet. They will be inside the internet.
Yeah.
Flying through the wires while their body lays in a pool of weird liquid.
Green gel.
Yeah.
It's not slime, but it's different.
Virtual reality.
I got a question. This is way off topic of music because music's boring. So let's talk about something different real quick.
Yeah, I hate music.
To end our podcast, I think it'd be funny. You and I have a thing about Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
So,
we do.
This would actually be a good people that watch this. If you're a boxing fan, I think. Here, I'm like the rabble rouser, man. You're a rabble rouser. My thing about Adele, bumming people out. This is going to bum people out again. Mike Tyson, I think he was overrated. And I'll give you my reasons why, and then you can expand on your reasons why you think he's not overrated.
All right.
Okay. I will tell you what I think is great about him. It's like, who am I to talk about Mike Tyson? But this is my opinion from being a boxing
Everybody's got an
aficionado. I love boxing. And especially boxing even from the 60s up until like current day. I think the Klitschko guys suck. But Mike Tyson, boring, just like boring stuff. Anyways, Mike Tyson was exciting. He went in there and he just tried to kill you. And he'd throw big hooks and he was fast, really explosive. But he fought bums. And look at his record. Bone Crusher Smith. Who the hell is Bone Crusher Smith, dude? Like, when has that guy ever been something that you want to talk about?
I don't even remember who that is.
That's the guy I think he might have beat him. Oh, no, Trevor Burbrick. Okay, there's another name. That's the guy he beat. No, the guy he beat for the title was Michael Spinks.
That's not a bum, right?
He wasn't amazing. He was okay.
Okay.
He was okay. He beat Larry Holmes when Larry Holmes was ancient.
All right.
Larry Holmes was, if you ever watch old fights of Larry Holmes, he was awesome. He had an amazing left jab. He had a great right hand.
Okay.
So, who did he fight that was like amazing? Let's find out. Let me think about this for a second. Okay, I know. Razor Ruddock. Razor Ruddock still had a lot of holes in his style. Like, he was still kind of a weird fighter, had an amazing uppercut, but he was also sort of like clunky.
Right.
He always looking for the one punch.
Yeah.
Which was an uppercut. Tyson beat him, and that was probably.
So you're saying that the era? Sorry, go ahead.
It's the era. I guess
the
he's a
era.
product
What
of the
didn't
era.
have anybody else?
Yeah. So let's go back.
There was no Ali in his era, and that's why.
Yeah. If you go back to the 70s, you have Muhammad Ali fighting Ken Norton and losing and winning. Ken Norton was a great fighter. Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman. Beat George Foreman. George Foreman is an amazing, like, athlete, destroyer kind of fighter. He fought Sonny Liston, who was one of the hardest punchers in the history of the sport. He fought Joe Frazier 3 times, who obviously is an amazing fighter. It's like, when you look at that, and you're like, wow, that guy, he fought the best of the best. And he lost, and he won, but he's like a legend. Like, and also the way he held himself as a human being. It's like he's one of those guys who was super influential. He made people like want to be something better. Mike Tyson, when he first came out, he did have a little bit of like, wow, that guy's amazing.
Well, it was rags to riches. It was
he's
like
a poor kid that didn't have a good upbringing. I don't know Mike Tyson. I mean, Ali's like total upbringing. I think he grew up with obviously better than Mike Tyson, most likely. But I just feel like Mike Tyson's always got this myth around him of him being so great. But the guys that he did fight that were really good, like Evander Holyfield, beat him. He fought Lennox Lewis.
Did he ever beat Evander?
No. He fought him once and lost. The second time he fought him, he bit his ear.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like winning.
It's winning by default. It's personal best.
Who's the best cannibal?
That's a personal best moment.
I agree.
So, my feeling about Mike Tyson, like Adele, is he's overrated.
Okay.
Ding!
My turn. All right. Well, I would say that whoever's the most famous, combat sports in general, let me take it to the philosophical. I think combat sports in general are just, they appeal to our primal nature. As Dana White is famous for saying, a zillion years ago, this is not what he said, but the basic idea paraphrasing here, is that, like, back in the day, no matter how far in history you go, if there was a few guys standing around and 2 of them started fighting, the rest were watching, and it was a great show. Like, it's in our DNA.
Yeah, we want to see a battle.
Yeah.
Men do, mostly. And not saying women don't, because you have Ronda Rousey, and there are women who want to see this too.
For sure. I think human beings, well, there's a classic story of, like, the girl at the bar that wants their boyfriend to fight for them.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. But, so, along with that, I think people want somebody to look up to. I think people want to worship something. Like, I think it's the God-shaped hole thing, and as that relates to modern culture. We want actors and musicians and sports stars to be larger than life and somebody that we can be like, and
hero
awe
worship,
of.
yeah.
Hero worship. So when you talk about how primal the desire is for hero worship, and you talk about how primal fighting is, and that really, like, in this modern age, so few of us actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, back in the day, I think we all had to know how to fight a little bit, or hunt, or we were more physical with our bodies, and it was a reality of life more so than now. You can avoid it.
Hunter-gatherer.
Yeah, so I think we're drawn to it because there's a part of us that almost, I don't know, the physicality of life is missing a little bit, how we get our food, etc. But, so I think what makes a great boxer is debatable because there's like, is it just their skill, or is it their skill plus like what they bring to the table in terms of their charisma, in terms of like their aura of power that they bring. And I think that there was nobody as feared as Tyson in the sport ever. I think nobody...
Well, George Foreman was pretty feared.
But I don't think when George Foreman walked into the ring, I don't think there was an aura like there was with Tyson, man. Remember that? Remember watching Tyson with that just like freaking gray, weird, like old sweatshirt thing that he'd wear? He didn't like walk in all flashy.
But he also fought bums, guys that like weren't on that level.
But that's not the point. It was so weird to look at a guy with a weird mousy voice that knocked people's heads off.
I'm gonna kick your butt.
Yeah, and then he'd get in there and it was just like, oh my gosh, Mike Tyson is fighting. Whoa!
Yeah, it was exciting. He brought excitement back to boxing.
He did not suck, man. Like,
no, he didn't suck.
You watch...
Anybody in that level is obviously really good.
Yeah, and you watch those training videos of him and how, like, dedicated... This is pre-prison Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, when he was Customato, he was a fierce, fast, destructive fighter.
And his head movement and his,
it's kind of a bummer that he didn't fight people of that caliber, because I think he would have done really well, if not beat them.
Yeah, because he would... I mean, he might have... Like, okay, you do the classic thing that... They've actually computer generated.
He wouldn't be
Tyson
Ali,
versus Ali.
He wouldn't be.
So I think he would lose. Maybe lose to Ali.
He said that.
But dude, he was so fast that maybe he could get a lucky shot in. I think
that wouldn't hurt Ali though. Ali had such a good chin that he would have taken it, and that would have taken all the fight out of Tyson.
It's all conjecture.
I know. They'll never see it happen.
All I know is
fun
that
to talk about though.
Ali had the power to knock out Tyson. Tyson had the power to knock out Ali. Guys at that level could knock each other out. And you're saying basically that Tyson couldn't find his chin because Ali was too elusive.
The only time Ali never got knocked out, Tyson got knocked out several times.
Right.
So there's the proof right there. It's like he got hit by Sonny Liston. He got hit by the hardest puncher in heavyweight history, which is Ernie Shavers. And he got hit by George Foreman.
But what are the measuring sticks for these
you got to go
statements?
It's just facts. Go on boxing, websites and stuff. Ernie Shavers is considered...
I don't believe that they're facts.
The hardest hitter of all time.
Based on what machine that measures it?
Based on the fighters that fought him, probably.
Yeah.
He hit me harder than anybody ever hit a human being.
But I would argue that even
but why would
it's more about accuracy than even power.
He was accurate and he was powerful. I mean, but I just don't think he would have done anything against Ali that Ali couldn't handle.
Power's weird too.
And he would have to get, first of all, Ali would just get him at a distance, and then he'd come at Ali, and Ali would figure out, what it came down to at that situation?
You know what this is, dude? This is who would win, Batman or Superman?
Kind of. But I really do think Ali would have outsmarted him. And even Tyson said in an interview that they said, could you have beaten Mike Tyson? And he said, no. He goes, Mike Tyson was too... He said Muhammad Ali, I don't know if he said this, I'm guessing this is what he said, but something to the effect of, Ali was... He said he was the master, and he bowed down to him. And he said he was really smart.
Tyson's smart for saying that, too. You know what I mean? Well,
he's really not going to say I could beat him. Well, he's a pretty arrogant guy.
Maybe he would, but yeah, he's definitely
he likes Muhammad Ali.
He has a lot of respect for history. Yeah. He watched endless tapes.
He liked George Foreman too.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I do respect about him, though, is that his quest for like knowledge and going back into the history books, and like he was a well-studied fighter. You know, the thing is, dude, he probably would have done the thing. It's a bummer for him that he wasn't around during a really fertile boxing time, because I think he would have done really well.
Yeah. What he did in terms of
he was
entertainment and power, and like
there was nothing like him at the time.
There was nothing like. I think there's nothing.
You could use
like
him now for sure. Jeez.
There's never been anything like Tyson in terms of the cultural phenomenon that Tyson was, in terms of like kind of what you want a fighter to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Ali. I mean, right now our new Ali, I think, is Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
in the UFC. Like,
he's very charismatic, very good, smart,
super intelligent, super
boastful,
yet also
but backs it up with real stuff, and he predicts his rounds.
Yeah,
that's the cockiest thing you can do, I think, as a fighter. Predict your round.
You can't deny him now. Like he
wins, and he does
proven.
it.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali would do it, and sometimes not. It wouldn't happen, and he would just brush it off. But
so far, so good for Conor. He's at the beginning, really, but he's worked his way to the top and done it. And
I like him a lot. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's not. These aren't accidents, like he works his butt off, and he's very technical, and he's just very smart. That wise ass like brain and mouth and like that translates to how he deals with his physicality and how he trains. Like he's a smart guy across the board, and I think that's Muhammad Ali was a smart guy.
Yeah, because they also have humor, and you have to be fun. If you're funny, you're smart, because you got to think on your feet to be quick, And those kind of guys they have all those that wit and the power, and also I think they're both. It's funny because he is kind of like the new Muhammad Ali. It's a different weight class, but there's nobody in the heavyweight division doing that at all. Not in boxing. In terms of who are the heavyweight guys in UFC?
We have Cain Velasquez.
Are anybody comparable to McGregor in terms of stature and ability?
Well, John Jones is considered to be the number one pound per pound.
But he's light heavyweight, though, right?
Yeah, he's light heavyweight. He's going to probably move up to heavyweight. And, he's made some not smart decisions. But he's a smart
guy. Likes to party
guy.
like a rock star.
He sure does. But he's a brilliant athlete.
He's awesome. He'll get together. I think a lot of people go through he's probably got a lot of money, a lot of fame. That's probably intoxicating for people.
Yeah, I would say that John Jones just might be
the best.
The Bieber of UFC. Not quite to that degree, but he's definitely a guy who his fame got a little bit of hold of him.
Yeah, went to his head a bit.
And then for a second there, it slightly it damaged the respect he had a little bit in terms of just a person.
Or so,
he never lost respect as a fighter, but I think it was like people want, just like I was saying earlier, people want their fighters to be. They either want to totally hate the fighter or they want to totally love him.
Yeah.
But if you're like a real human being and you're making mistakes, watch out.
Yeah, and that's what he was doing.
Dude, I can't imagine being a super public person.
I am. I can tell you about it.
Yeah. I mean, this podcast is one of the most watched podcasts.
I was going to say that because of this podcast, my fame has risen to a kind of a crazy degree.
Yeah.
So just watch out, people. I might be in a Ferrari somewhere.
I mean, there are literally dozens of views.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do with that kind of, adoration?
Yeah, I mean...
We have to have a podcast on our adoration, how that's affecting us.
It's hard, man. I walk down the street...
And nobody knows who you are.
And nobody knows who I am.
Yeah, it's it hurts more than anything.
Yeah, that's hard.
Well, today was awesome. I actually really had a good time talking about Rush and Adele and boxing. I think that's cool, man. It's they all have a correlation somehow. The roads meet somehow.
They do. I mean, especially those two sports and music. They cut to the core of who we are as people, and what it takes to be successful is the discipline that it takes to be
that's the thing,
a great
discipline.
Artist, and the discipline it takes to be a great fighter.
Yep.
And the core parts of our humanity that they get in touch with. Mano y mano.
Yep. The discipline thing you said, it hits it right in the head. If you're going to be anything in the music business, you have to have discipline.
And I think as an artist, you're a fighter, but you're fighting against kind of yourself in order to have that discipline and to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing in the world is to fight against the desire to be careful and to protect yourself and your feelings and
for sure
not be vulnerable.
Very vulnerable. Yeah.
Maybe that's a good note to end on. What do I know?
Well, number 8 was awesome. Looking forward to number 9. We're actually going to do it in a couple days, but you won't see it until
Yeah, Mike will be back. We don't know if we'll get Mike's thoughts on Rush in time, but
maybe he can give us his thoughts on the 9 podcast number 9.
Yeah,
number 9. Maybe we'll talk about the Beatles next.
Yeah, we don't want to lose too many viewers.
We won't get into a rant of.
I don't think anybody's ever just talked about the Beatles.
No, nobody really gets into the Beatles, man. They don't understand them.
They're indie.
They're so weird.
They're such an indie kind of niche band.
Indie niche band.
I do know, we won't mention any names, but there was somebody that didn't know any Beatles songs that we worked with, and I felt old. Because I'm no master of the Beatles by any means.
I know a lot of Beatles. But I just felt sad for them.
But to never have heard of the Beatles is...
It's sad. It's like not knowing who Beethoven or Miles Davis is.
Yeah, I just want to talk to their parents and see if they were locked under the stairs.
Where was your kid? You listen to Sandy Patty all day? What were you doing? I got a weird reference for you.
Sandy Patty, dude.
On that note, I'm going to play Fly By Night. Oh, wait, we got a jam.
Yeah.
Maybe you play something, I'll just jam to you.
All right.
With my Alex Lifeson-like licks. Then the Beatles chord. Wow, blues chord, I mean. All right, to the next one.
Good evening and good night.
I love you guys like I love cake.
And off. See you next time.
I'm frozen.
That's going in.
Ringing sound, poison rain, don't come around here again. I will cover you, you will feel no pain. Wait for the blue sky again. Did it for the money, babe, did it for the green. Then my luck ran out, lost my sanity. Now I'm here today, wanna testify. Don't do it for the money, babe, 'cause the money's gonna lie. Ooh, ooh. Ringing sound,